Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Inside the Iggles Live. We are back. It is a beautiful Friday, September 8th. Football is here. We have football. Which is great. I'm right once again about everything, guys. My name is Jake. With me are are Brandon Pockris, Jalil Williams, and Matt Grizel. I nailed his last name right there. I nailed everybody's names.
Yes, you did. Great job. Great start.
I thank you very much. I'm playing hurt right now. You know how your dentist tells you need to get your wisdom teeth taken out or you're going to regret it. Well, I didn't, and I am now regretting it. So I have a lisp. I am going to end up biting my lip at some point, and I'm probably going to fly off the handle because I don't have control over my emotions. But we're not going to worry about that. We'll worry about that when we get there. Let's talk football. Let's talk number one. Let's talk number one about what we saw last night and how I'm the most correct person in the world. That Patrick Mahomes, without Eric Bieniemy, is a system quarterback and an absolute pumpkin. Can I have in the rundown? It needs to be a 5-minute standing ovation. So,
well, you're not getting it from me. So.
Go ahead, have a seat, Jake.
How about it? You know, it will be remembered currently as the game where nobody caught a single ball from Patrick Mahomes. But the history books will remember it as the day that Patrick Mahomes went 21 for 39, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, and had a QB rating of 77.5. I no longer have to defend myself. I want you guys to defend yourself with your Patrick Mahomes takes.
All right, I'm gonna start because I feel like either me or Joel have been the most ardent defenders in terms of this ludicrous take that is just continuously making its way onto this show. But I will agree with Jake. This might have been one of the worst performances I've seen from an NFL skill group. You see stuff like this happen at the college level all the time. But in terms of like NFL skill players, it felt like Mahomes was making the right reads, avoiding pressure, making the throws he could, and every time it just was like his receivers had bricks for hands. Just hitting the hands, hitting off their helmets, just dropping to the turf every time. And no matter what the read he made, it felt like, if Mahomes was trying to push the ball more than 5-6 yards down the field, it wasn't working. Think about it, right? How many yards does Kadarius Toney have if he remembered how to catch a football? Probably a lot. How many yards does Sky Moore have if he remembers how to catch a football? Probably a lot. And we're probably talking about how if Mahomes' receivers catch the ball, oh my goodness, Mahomes won a game with Sky Moore, Rashid Rice, Kadarius Toney as his wideouts, no Travis Kelce. Because if they actually made the plays they were supposed to, I think that's the result we're talking about. There's a more Eagle-centric conversation once we start looking at the Lions' perspective of things, because that's an NFC opponent. But I think just on a surface level, goodness gracious, the Chiefs got to figure out this wide receiver situation, because if they don't, I'm huge on them. And I'm a big proponent of the don't bet against Mahomes until proven otherwise. It goes back to like the don't bet against Tom Brady until proven otherwise. We see stuff like this. I'm going to start being like, you know what? The Bengals seem a bit more appealing right now, where, you know, the Bills or the Jets or all these other teams that are challenging for the upper echelon, the AFC, that wide receiver problem, and let's add to it the offensive line problem with, what was it, Juwan Taylor, just basically like being like a sixth receiver at times. Just if those problems keep happening along with the Chris Jones holdout, this Chiefs season could end up being a failure by their standards. And I think that's very interesting to watch going forward.
No, I want to preface my comments by saying I picked Detroit to win that game. It's not surprising. That doesn't lean what I'm going to say in your direction, Jake, because I still vehemently disagree with you with this whole Patrick Mahomes thing. You gotta go ahead and let that go, my guy.
It's fine. You guys can disagree all you want, but I mean, it doesn't stop me. Listen, the numbers are there.
I wanna highlight 2 things. And about, you know, and this is going to, it should crystallize why we can't blame Patrick Mahomes, which I think most people already don't. It's just Jake who's
Just
on
throwing the
this.
ball
So
too hard.
basically, most sane people.
Yeah, exactly. The same people. So, what happened when Chip Kelly got rid of Jeremy Maclin and Deshaun Jackson and Shady, right? If you don't have the players, it's just not going to work. It doesn't matter what the system is and who the quarterback is. Carson Wentz, he had to deal with that in 2018, I think it was, or 2019, where the receivers just weren't getting open. The balls were being dropped left and right. When he put it there, he wasn't perfect himself. The decline had begun, but he was still at times making plays that amounted to nothing because nobody could catch the ball, right? So it doesn't matter if you're Michael Vick, if you're Donovan McNabb, if you're Carson Wentz, if you're Patrick Mahomes. If the guys can't catch the ball, if they can't get open, you're probably going to have trouble winning the game. And so that's why I picked Detroit, knowing that Travis Kelce was going to be out. And if Detroit, who's had this hype train all off season, right? They won their last 8 games last season and blah, blah, blah. If they were going to be who a lot of people feel like they're supposed to be this year, they couldn't lose that game. And they still should have lost that game, right? If in that fourth quarter, if Sky Moore makes that catch on 4th and 25 where he still put it there, right? That still might be a loss for the Detroit Lions. What I was most impressed with, and I know we got to get to the Eagles stuff, but I haven't had anybody to get these thoughts out too. What I was impressed with was how strong the defensive line for the Chiefs looked without Chris Jones in the first half. That was surprising to me. I didn't expect that at all. So they were able to get it together more. They had the ball for like 9 minutes in the fourth quarter. Detroit did, running the ball down their throats. But initially, that Chiefs front played very, very well, and that was very surprising to me. If they're going to play like that, and Chris Jones comes back, that defense might be more of a problem than people were willing and ready to deal with. You get Travis Kelce back on top of that, the Chiefs are still going to be a problem.
There's probably some validity to that. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I think it tends to be with any just overall in a reaction to the NFL is a reaction. The most week is week number 1, where you tend to project, okay, this is the way the team looked in the opening week. This is how they may look for the rest of the year. And in fairness, it's all we have to go off of. But we also have to keep in mind there's 17 or 18 more weeks of the season left. So I think with Mahomes, yeah, it wasn't his best game, but he still at times looked like the same Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, if the receivers aren't catching balls or he doesn't have Travis Kelce, and he's already lost Juju Smith-Schuster, so they're already kind of at a disadvantage with that, where a receiver technically has to emerge at the wide receiver position. So, but I think there's just so much more experience and talent with that core of that team that I wouldn't really overreact too much to 1 week. Yeah, I don't know if they're going to return to the Super Bowl and make the Super Bowl this year, because it's just how the NFL works. It rarely happens in back-to-back years. But I still would think that the Chiefs will be competitive and with a chance to win that division. Now with the Lions, they had probably a huge chip on their shoulder going to that game. No one expected them to win, and they did well last year. Finally, Jared Goff finally looks like the number 1 overall pick everyone expected him to be in 2016 when he was drafted by the Rams.
7 years later, finally got
it. He finally got into a good system with Detroit.
He was a project.
And, like Amon-Ra St. Brown continues to be a underrated receiver. So I think what the issue with them would be the head coach and making those risky decisions where, you're going for it within your own 20. Sometimes it works, but when it doesn't, and you're going against the league's best quarterback over the past couple of years, I wouldn't get in the habit of doing that, but that's just how he does. He does have a habit of doing that. So, I mean, sure, it may work out, but a lot of times it's not going to work out. So, I tend to be a bit more conservative. I know the NFL is transitioning into this to going for it on fourth down a lot, and
you thank Doug Peterson for that.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni does it. It's a whole new age thing. So, but yeah, the Lions looked impressive, and they do have a shot to win a division because it really doesn't. I mean, Green Bay has been one of those top teams year after year, but with the new quarterback, you're not sure how that's going to pan out. And that division, the NFC North, is wide open, and Detroit got off to a good start. It was only a 1-point win, but a win's a win.
Yeah, to a couple thoughts. You mentioned overreacting. I would argue that what I'm doing is not overreacting. It's just absolutely flexing and stunting on everybody for being the most correct person this beautiful Friday. And Matt, you're uninitiated to my indoctrination. But my take is that Patrick Mahomes is indeed a system quarterback, seeing as how career, or no, was it career? Or was it just last year? Whatever it is, ADOT of 5.5 yards, averaged up the target was 5.5 yards, threw behind the sticks 69% of the time, and then another one that I dug up because of the cycle.
Stop you there.
No,
I have to stop you there. Okay, enough with these damn numbers. Because all that tells me is that he was able to make the proper transition and run the offense how it needed to be run after the loss of Tyreek Hill, right? Because in the years that he had Tyreek Hill, those yards per attempt were large. Okay, you lose that type of deep threat and speed, he makes the proper adjustments so the offense still runs and works, and they still are a league leader in offense. That's not a bad thing.
I didn't start my speech off correctly. I'm sorry. What I was supposed to say first is, if you take everything else away from Patrick Mahomes, if you ignore everything about him except for these very, very specific numbers that I cherry picked, then he's a system quarterback.
Okay.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. Hey, listen, it's 2023, man. I got all the numbers in front of me. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. And then
arbitrary stats are just crazy. It's like
that's kind of my thing. That's kind of my thing. Just be an idiot the entire time. And then also his on target percentage is 61.3% compared to Jalen Hurts 75.6%. So hey, what are you gonna do? Remember that one incompletion that he had where he was diving and then it made it into a Madden commercial? Wow, that was pretty sick, wasn't it? It hit the wide receiver in the face. Who was that wide receiver? None other than Tyreek Hill. All right, so take with that what you want.
Well, I mean, anyway, they put it in the game. They didn't just put it in the commercial. They put it in the game.
It's a big dumb bunch of load of crap. But bringing it all to the Eagles, 2 points. One of them less so than the other one. I was talking to Brandon before the show. Mahomes and his wide receivers misconnection there was very reminiscent of Tanner McKee in the preseason games. He was like fucking that's a word. He was smoking dudes in the hands.
Phrasing.
Yep. He was smoking dudes in the hands, and they just weren't catching it. So that was one way I want to tie into Eagles, and the other one, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson. Thought he had ups and downs in that game. I think there's a very good chance that the Eagles are going to miss him a lot. He gambled on himself and taking, what is it, $8 million for this one season? Is that what it was?
Yeah,
I'm still so confused that he wasn't able to get a multi-year deal with anybody.
Yeah, I mean, he led the league in interceptions for a while last year, didn't he?
Yes,
the end of the season, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, with 6.
Is it an attitude problem? Because he does talk a lot.
Does he?
Yes.
Like online he talks a lot, and off the field, but he didn't talk. He didn't draw like last year. He didn't draw any of those penalties that he used to draw for the Saints. Like when he was playing for the Saints, he would get in people's heads. Oh my God, he would get in people's heads.
Well, it's
I
not
also
like
feel
we
like
didn't offer him a deal. We
I
offered him a deal.
I also feel like it's like that's a competitive thing. Like you want that like on your defense. You don't want guys that are just going to sit back and like it's a big part of like I know it's like an overused term, but you want guys that are like dogs, like guys that are going to like be that invested in trying to go win games. And that's why like it's so confusing to me. It's like you see the production he had with the Eagles. Why it's not even necessarily the money amount. It's like the fact that no one offered him a multi-year deal. I feel like that's more on his side of he probably didn't see the number he wanted to in those multi-year deals and was like, I'm gonna bet on myself again.
Let me be clear. I wasn't saying that him talking was a bad thing to me. I was just asking a question, right?
Oh yeah, no, 100%.
Okay, because I agree. It is a little confusing.
Yeah,
he was very productive last year, and the ability to turn over the ball, especially in how dominant offenses are these days, can't be understated in its importance. So yeah, I don't understand either.
Yeah, and that was one of the things. Yesterday, he had the opportunity for 2 interceptions.
Yeah.
The one, I believe it's hit him in the hands.
It hit him right in the hands.
And then another one, it looked like he didn't even he lost the ball.
I think he saw it a little too late.
That might have been maybe not lost it, but yeah. So he had the opportunity, but if you're looking to turn this 1-year deal into, a multiple year thing, starting off with 2 interceptions in game 1 is a good way to do it. But
against Patty Mahomes, no less, your boy Jake.
He throws the most hilarious interceptions, man. It's always with him, man. Congratulations on the sidearm balls, the fake shovel passes and everything like that. But I absolutely love it when he just hits one off his receiver's hands, hits one off of a lineman's helmet, and it shoots up into the air. Oh, his interceptions are hilarious.
I've always felt that, like, if it hits them a receiver in both their hands, we have so many metrics today that measure like catchable balls. It's like, so if we can get one of those that says that was a catchable ball that goes off your hands, but that shouldn't go on the quarterback, man.
Maybe he was throwing the ball too hard. Maybe he was trying too hard, playing a little hero ball, a little Carson Wentz adjacent. Maybe that's what it was. People are saying, not just me, but people. There's my burner account, not my burner account, but some other guy on Twitter who's not me for sure. All right. Is that everything we have over the Lions' domination of the Kansas City Chiefs?
One quick nugget on the Lions. As much as I like their roster, if they don't figure out some of those play calls, and it's going to help when Jameson Williams gets back on the field. Hopefully, when he comes back after his 6 games, he's going to be, injury free for the most part. But if they don't figure out some of those play calls, right? Ben Johnson, their offensive coordinator, I felt like he was getting a little too cute with some of his play calls early in the game on 3rd and short or 4th and short, and that's going to end up costing them. So they better figure that out if they plan on making a run to the postseason.
Yeah. Same with Matt Nagy, was also being a little bit too cute too. He thought he was Eric Bieniemy. Nope, you're just an idiot.
I also think to that point about the Lions, right? You're seeing the effect of why they want Jameson Williams to be that difference maker on offense, because Amon-Ra St. Brown, I think, is going to be a very, very high level receiver in the NFL. Like, he's showing that already, and Sam Laporta already looks like a great tight end find for them in the first round, which, hey, rookie tight ends don't usually make an impact. Maybe Laporta is the next. Maybe he's the exception. You add a guy like Jameson Williams, if he hits, the Lions are so much more dangerous, because I'm a fan of their defense. I'm a fan of their run game offensive line. Jahmyr Gibbs looks great. I think he should be getting more carries than Montgomery. That's beside the point.
Yes.
If JMO gives them the over-the-top speed element, that fully opens up that offense to now where, let's say, the Lions are hitting those play action and those runs, and a defense does try to creep up, guess what? Now they do have the capacity to hit that deep play over the top, and it gives them that big play element because it's a bit understated because of the Chiefs receiver issues, but it's not like the other receivers on the Lions were much better outside of Laporta and Amon-Ra. I mean, Marvin Jones did not have a good game whatsoever. So
why is he still around?
The Lions need that second option, and more so than just a second option, that deep threat that Jameson Williams can provide. Is he going to do that, though? I think that'll play a huge part in how the Lions fare this season, at least on offense.
Probably fair. You'd get a good field stretcher. Okay, let's get into to the birds. Let's talk birds. Let's talk season predictions. Okay, we are gonna go over just some things that we not talking bold predictions. Bold predictions are different. These are reasonable. Let's be rational. It's not my strong suit, being rational. But let's do it.
We saw that already. Don't worry.
Excuse you. Excuse
you. Demonstrated it multiple times.
Excuse you. All right. Okay. I'm going to start off with this one. Brandon, you might have a more insight on this than other people, but history is history. The Jets currently have never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. Do we think that the Jets are going to get their first win against the Philadelphia Eagles this year? They are playing on week 6. It is the Eagles are playing at MetLife. It is not a primetime game. Not that that really matters with Aaron Rodgers. Matters with some people that we'll talk about. But what do we think?
It's so hard for me, right? Because we'll get to our record predictions, but I think I might be higher on the Eagles than most people in a way that it's just like I just feel very good about their offense. I'm very, very encouraged by their defense with what they added. But you look at it with the Jets and Eagles, right? These are two teams that are built very similarly. Trenches, at least on defense, both teams are stacked. If there's any team that might give the Eagles a run for their money on the defensive line, it is the Jets. They both are built from the trenches out. Joe Douglas, coming over from Philly to New York, probably has a big part to do with that. On the offense, Jets offensive line, if they're healthy, and that's the biggest thing, they haven't been healthy, it's adequate. It's good enough. And it's how does that unit fare against the Eagles defensive line? How does the Eagles offensive line fare against the Jets defensive line? I think looking at it right now, I'd give the slight edge to the Eagles only because we've seen them do it and we don't know how things are going to mesh with the Jets right off the bat. This is also coming from someone that is very, very high on the Jets this year, but things aren't going to be perfect right off the bat. You don't know how things are going to mesh. And week 6 is almost halfway through the season. So much can change from September 8th heading into week 1 to, okay, it's week 6. We now have a quarter of the season done, almost at halfway through. How have things changed? How these teams stack up now? But at this point in time, I'm going to lean Eagles because I think quarterback's a wash. I think running back's a wash. I think receiver, Eagles have the slight edge, but that kind of gets washed out by the corners that the Jets have. Linebackers, I'd probably give to the Jets because of CJ Mosley as opposed to the other guys. Safety, I think it's a wash. Like, so many of these positions on the team are considered a wash, but I think right now it comes down to 2 factors. I don't know how the Jets are going to cover Dallas Goedert because the last time they played, Dallas Goedert was an absolute force against the Jets on defense. The Jets did not have a guy that could cover him consistently. Tony Adams, their new starting safety, is a guy that they think could potentially handle assignments like that. We're not 100% sure yet. And I also think that depending on how the offensive line is for the Jets, the Eagles defensive line could have the edge over the Jets defensive line because the Eagles have a little bit more depth along their O-line than the Jets have along that O-line. So I guess in summation, kind of bringing it all back full circle, the Eagles have maybe 1, 2, or 3 little edges over them that I would give them the edge in the matchup right now. But it's going to be a very fun game when they play, and I think it's a coin flip at this point in time.
Okay.
Go ahead there, Matt. Get in there.
I think if this is the year for the Jets to do it, it's this year. I mean, this is one reason why you got Aaron Rodgers. And there's a lot of pressure on that organization to get this right for that team. Granted, the Eagles are an out-of-conference game, but we don't know what the rosters are going to be like week 6, who's going to be hurt. But to echo off of Brandon's point, yeah, I could see it being a very close game, and it could come down to turnovers. A unlucky fumble by Hurts, or on a kickoff return leads to a game-winning field goal by the Jets, or the opposite happens and the Eagles get a game-winning field goal. But I think at some point, I mean, you would think the Jets are going to beat them at some point. I mean, but if the Jets are going to do it at any point, it'll be this year with Garrett Wilson. He looked like an old pro last year, potential to be a top receiver in the league, and arguably already is. And especially if and that's an advantage for the Jets, especially if Slay, Bradbury are hurt or they're struggling. And the Eagles have a bunch of unknowns at the unrestricted or the undrafted corners. Yeah, they could have potential, but there could be, to echo what Brandon said about the Jets, it could be a learning curve for them, given that they're undrafted, and it's going to take time for them to gel, and that's why you have corners like Darius Slay and James Bradbury. But Aaron Rodgers, he didn't do that well in Green Bay last year. It could be from a supporting cast or for whatever reason. But when he's motivated, he'll prove like he's still one of the best. And it could be a situation where with Tom Brady going to Tampa Bay that first year with Tampa, he kind of wanted to prove everybody wrong. And he did that, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying the Jets are going to do that, but you pull your eggs into that basket of getting Aaron Rodgers and making this year the year, kind of putting the future on hold with Zach Wilson. Time will tell if he develops into a starter or not, but I think the Jets will give the Eagles their money in that game, and it'll be a close game, but I would take the Jets by about a field goal win.
Oh man!
I think we're gonna get the first one.
Hell no! I don't think the Jets are going to be. They're not going to get that first victory. The Jets' offensive line is being held together with silly string. You know what I'm saying? Like, their interior is pretty strong between the center and the guards, but all the way up until probably now, they're probably still having conversations like, are we sure about these tackles? Dwayne Brown is 80 years old, and Mekhi Becton is supposed to be good, but he can't stay healthy. He played like one game in the past 2 years?
Something like that. Yeah.
By week 6, I expect Dwayne Brown and Mekhi Becton to still be having some of the problems that they've been having. And even if Mekhi Becton is still healthy at that point, okay, congratulations. Here's Hassan Reddick. It's just not going to be great for him. He hasn't played enough NFL football, I feel like, to even be ready for that type of challenge. Like I'm not giving that to him. I see your face, bro. I see your face.
I mean, he shut down. I mean, devil's advocate, he did shut down Joey Bosa his rookie season, so it's not like he's had no experience against top edge rushers.
Yes, this is true. How long ago was that?
And no, I devil's advocate. You're saying
Yeah,
you're saying
that's
it's a
fair.
test he hasn't faced. He has faced upper edge pass rush before.
That's fair. That's fair. But about 2 years straight of not playing enough NFL football, I'm just, in the rookie year, obviously you're still coming from college. You were playing, right? You haven't been playing at this point, so I feel like that's going to lean itself to the Eagles' favor a lot more. And on the other side, of course, we now have Josh Sweat, we also still have Brandon Graham, and it's just going to be relentless on that side. Their offensive line, I don't think, is going to be able to handle the onslaught of the defensive line. And it's not the same on the other side, as great as they are up front, because I agree with you, they are phenomenal up front. But that's where the number one offensive line in the league for the Eagles comes into play. Like there's going to be a battle, but they're going to get stopped quite a bit, way more than they're going to be used to when it comes to playing a lot of the other teams that they'll have to deal with throughout the season. Sauce Gardner is amazing, and like just that defense in general. But going up against the type of offense where Jalen Hurts makes the right decision almost every damn time, and it's an RPO base with options off of options where you're pretty much always wrong, and what you're going to guess is going to be a problem for them. I think they don't deal with many of those offenses over there in the AFC. Those quarterbacks over there, for the most part, play completely different style, right? Josh Allen doesn't play that way. Mac Jones doesn't play that way. Like those guys in their division and all that, especially don't. So I do think it's going to be a fight, because that is still Aaron Rodgers. I don't fear Aaron Rodgers, but I do still respect him. And when you bring him some of his familiarity with Lazard, and if Brees Hall is going to be in tow, Dalvin Cook, some of those guys, they'll have the ability to cause some problems and make some plays, but at the end of the day, they are going to take that big fat L. I'm thinking about trying to make it to that game. It's something I've been trying to work out. I'd have to fly up to New York from Dallas. I don't know if I would be able to make it happen, but I want to see that.
The short answer, the Eagles are going to win that game. My only the challenges that I think are going to come with it is the game before that they're playing in LA, so it's a big travel. All right, so that's one thing. The other thing is that going into that's easily going to be the most difficult game thus far. Is that no? It's not the It's going to be the most difficult game.
I can rattle off the schedule before that.
Well, yeah, I have it here in front of me. It's New England, Minnesota, Tampa Bay, Washington, the Rams, and then the Jets. So it's going to be the most difficult game that they have. But this is in week 6. This is going to be the time, and I think we've said this before. This is going to be the time where the Eagles show, oh yeah, they can win however they want. I think that a lot of these games before, it's going to be very heavy passing is the way that they do it. Or I mean, they can obviously they can run it too, but this is going to be the game where like, okay, they're going to need to run the ball in order to be able to do this. They're going to need to use Dallas Goedert, who maybe leading up to this game has not been. He might lead, like that might be the game that he gets the most targets or something like that. It's good. That's what I'm thinking that this Jets game is going to be, where people are like, oh yeah, the Eagles can pretty much do whatever the hell they want to do on the offense whenever they need to do it. So that's. I mean, yeah, you guys have said everything else about it, but yeah, I'm very in on the Eagles in that game.
I mean, it's so funny because we are so far out from this game, but it's like I basically have the big red circle around that game, and
Yeah.
I'm calling it Dallas Goedert X Factor game.
Yep.
Dallas, because look, the Jets have the personnel on defense to cover basically everything the Eagles throw at them. Is that going to be successful every time? No, because NFL is an offensive-driven league. The Eagles offense is going to get the Jets defense. The Jets defense will get the Eagles offense.
Right.
If Dallas Goedert isn't covered like the last time they played, Dallas Goedert's probably going for 120 and 2. It's just because he's just that type of player, and there's not many people in the NFL that can cover tight ends like that. And I haven't seen that from this Jets defense. The Jets' Achilles heel on defense has always been up the middle, or at least recently, as of like last year when their defense was as good as it was, their Achilles heel was up the middle. So if the Eagles can take advantage of that, it goes to your point, Jake, where they can show, hey, yeah, maybe we won a few games using A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. They're getting locked down. We still have this all-world tight end that we can rely on whenever we need to. And, I think that's the X factor, because if he somehow is shut down, and we obviously don't know what the injury situation, everything's going to be like in week 6, but if he's playing and is shut down, you're going to have a lot closer game than I think a lot of people expect. And if he isn't shut down, I think the Eagles, while it still will be a close game, I think they get that victory.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, I have what is this, 7? I have 7 more season predictions. Does anybody else have any that they want to throw out there, or do you want me to rattle mine off? Or
no, later. Go ahead, Jake.
All right.
Yeah, keep it going.
None about Mahomes.
None about Mahomes. One about Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts breaks a single season passing touchdown record. I think he gets over 33 passing touchdowns. Talking, do a lot of talk that this year is not going to be nearly as dominant last year, where they only had to throw the ball like 2 times in the second half of games. He's going to be doing that a lot more, and we know what happens when he throws the balls. When he throws the ball, the Eagles score touchdowns. That one's pretty cut and dry for me.
So I'm in agreement with this one. I'm looking at some of the Eagles prop bets, doing some writing stuff about that, and I'm of the thought process that I think he's going to hit his over on both touchdowns and passing yards, because of the fact, like you just said, Hurts missed 2 games and he didn't play a lot of fourth quarters.
Right.
Just by virtue of having tougher games, like that Jets game, he's going to have to throw the ball. He's going to probably throw the ball a lot against New England. He's probably going to throw the ball a lot against Minnesota. Like these teams that he's playing, with the overall tougher schedule, you're going to need to rely on a superstar like him way more. And games where it's that close, the running's important, but you can't rely on it as much. So I think the passing game is going to be increased, not just because of that, but also it's a second year with A.J. Brown. I think A.J. Brown's going to be even better. Devonta Smith is still here. Dallas Goedert's still here. Oh, you also have DeAndre Swift, and we saw how the Eagles wanted to use him in the preseason. I think that him breaking that touchdown record, definitely in play. I think he could approach 40 if everything breaks right.
Yep. No, I'm on the same page. What I tell y'all my nickname is in the family, Optimistic Prime, right? So I'm always on the up. Glass half full, completely full, overflowing. My cup runneth over. You know what I'm saying? So I think Jalen Hurts is going to win MVP this year. I think he's going to, break all those records that you mentioned. And I think it's about to be another great ride. This one more expected. Last year, it was kind of like, wow, we didn't expect him to be this damn good. This year, it's like, let's go. Yeah, NFL, you have a problem on your hands, and we're not going anywhere.
What about you, Matt?
That's his 33 passing touchdowns, correct?
That is the record. Carson Wentz.
I think he could get close. I think the only issue I have with that is how many times is he running for a score as opposed to throwing? That would be my only issue as to why he wouldn't get it, assuming he plays all 17 games, which is also another issue. The sky's the limit for him. He's just one of the most intelligent quarterbacks in the league. This will be his 3rd year starting. So, you just get the sense he's poised. He's as good as it gets, pretty much. Aside from Jake's favorite player, Patrick Mahomes. So I mean, other than that, I mean, he can get it possibly. I don't think he will, just because I think some of those passing, what would be passing touchdowns, will turn into rushing touchdowns, just because they generally
Could be a like
on the
a
goal
DPI
line,
or a DPI in the end zone, puts the ball on the 1 yard line.
And he had, he scrambled for 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl. So
right.
I mean, so that would be my only issue, besides injury, of course. But other than that, he's fully capable. As of today, I expect them to, have all the potential in the world. Just, especially if they can maintain the health that they did primarily throughout last year, which is going to be a lot to ask for in 2 consecutive years. But I think he has a shot, but I don't think he'll do it. He'll come close, but I don't think he'll get 33.
You're a hater, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, he'll get 33 total, but I think that's more likely.
Tie it. Okay, another one. I do not. You can call me a hater for this. I do, or not a hater. I do not think that there's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher on the team. I think that there's a potential for Jalen Hurts to be the leading rusher on the team. I think that 750 yards is something that he could do. And I think that there's enough talent in the backfield that could be spread around as much as they can. I don't think that there's going to be one single guy with a Miles Sanders type season where one guy gets most of the work. I do not think that there's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher.
I would also tend to agree with this. And my thought process for this kind of starts when looking at what the Eagles have their running back depth chart currently, where all 4 running backs are listed as first string.
Right.
Basically, and I'm not sure how many people listening play fantasy football, this is the backfield where you wait to see what happens. And if it's like this for more than 3 weeks, you avoid it at all costs. This is a team that has shown you they do not care to pay for running back. They will use as many players at the position as possible with a variety of different skill sets to get what maybe 1 or 2 players can accomplish. And while that's a good or bad thing, however you may look at it, reality of the situation is on top of those running backs, you have Jalen Hurts, who has amazing rushing ability. That wealth, instead of being concentrated into 1 guy or 2 guys, is going to be spread out. So Jake, I'm in full agreement with you on this.
I don't want to, but I'm kind of on the same page. I think I do agree. I want so badly for DeAndre Swift to establish himself as the guy that is like, if you're not giving me the most carries, then you're throwing. You know what I'm saying? I want it to be like that, but like you said, that stable of running backs, the weapons that we have on the outside, Jalen Hurts' ability as well as a runner. I mean, it's just going to take away from the yards that some of those running backs could accumulate, and so I would agree. I think that's solid.
Yeah, I would agree as well. There's just if you're talking about 4 backs each getting a slice of the rock, and then you're also factoring Jalen Hurts.
Three and a half.
Yeah, that's a lot to. It's a lot to go around. I would expect that the running back to have the most yards would probably be Kenneth Gainwell. I think it'd be interesting to see if he gets any more of an expanded role now that Miles Sanders is gone. Given the injury histories of Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift. So it'll be interesting to see, hypothetically, if neither one of those were healthy enough to play in the game, what happens? Do they give it more to Hurts? Does Hurts takes a lot of carries, or do they concede to Kenneth Gainwell? So, I mean, he definitely had the biggest big play potential, it seemed. But we'll see what he's like now that Miles Sanders isn't there. But yeah, I don't see an 1,000-yard rusher in this group.
And I'll tell you what, to me, Kenneth Gainwell he's supposed to be that break-in case of emergency running back that, you know what I'm saying, when you pull it out, it's like, oh, reliable. You know what I'm saying? Like, right. I want Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift to be the focal point at running back. They just clearly have the most ability out of the you know what I'm saying, the guys in the room. So it's 4 or 500-yard rushers. Charles Allen says that the Eagles might have. For Boston Scott to get 500 yards in the season,
that'd be something. That'd be something.
200 against the Giants in the first game, 200 in the second game, and then fill it in and the other touches. He just doesn't get a lot of run in games that don't involve the New York Giants. So I mean, he is not going to have 500 yards.
Yeah, and you mentioned that DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny have the most. What would you say? The most potential, the most
talent,
the most talent. I think they have the most proven talent. I mean, Kenny Gainwell was behind Miles Sanders, who's a good running back. He's a really good running back. I'd say he's a great running back. Not necessarily when he's running the ball, pass catching. No, get him the hell out of here. But it's hard for a Kenneth Gainwell to be able to show what his potential is, to be able to prove that he's dominant when he's behind a guy who can be as dominant as Miles Sanders. So I don't necessarily know if I agree with them. I just don't know if they are the most dominant. Kenny.
You will agree. Just give it time. Just give it time.
We got somebody who absolutely disagrees with you. Not breaking case of emergency.
No, he's not, but he should be. That's the problem.
All right. Next one that I got. In this one, I don't know. This is just a kind of a gut feeling thing for me. Nolan Smith gets more sacks than Jalen Carter. Seems kind of, I don't know. The way that this offseason's kind of gone is that after the draft, Jalen Carter kept kind of quiet. Like when he wasn't on the field, he was very quiet, and that makes a whole lot of sense given everything that was going on with him. But Nolan Smith was out there, and he was doing all like the press and stuff and being real personable. That's when we got the idea that he's going to be the Jalen Hurts of the defense. But then it came time for training camp, and all anybody could talk about was that Jalen Carter is this guy. He's a goddamn mammoth. What did he? They call him a baby rhino.
Baby rhino.
Yeah. So I think the pendulum swung the way of Jalen Carter. I'm still very hyped about Nolan Smith. And I mean the interior on a defensive line. I mean it takes a minute. There's like for them to get in like the full swing of things. Jalen Carter absolutely has the talent to not need that minute in order to start being dominant. But I really do, especially seeing the way edge rushers worked last year with the Eagles. I think that Nolan Smith very well could end this season with more sacks than Jalen Carter.
I'm torn on this one, right? Because like so much of Carter's game coming out, like he's just this all-around force as a player. So it's like on the one hand, I'm thinking, Carter could be this maybe not starter right off the bat, but the more and more playing time he gets, he's just going to be this force that can wreak havoc on the inside and both run game and as a pass rusher. But then you think about it, right? Nolan Smith is just this absolute freak off the edge. And it feels like a lot of, at times, the passing game gets funneled to the outside when teams are facing the Eagles defense, giving, the edge rushers a bit more opportunity. So I think this is a coin toss for me. I'm going to go no at this moment because I'm just not sure how much, Nolan Smith is going to take away from like Hassan Reddick and like guys like that in terms of sacks. And I feel like Carter could make a few more things happen on the interior. But I don't think that's a bad one.
So you're saying Jalen Carter gets more sacks than Nolan Smith?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I agree with that. Actually, Brendan, once again, we're on the same page in this season prediction segment. But for me, it has a little bit to do with I do think that Jalen Carter has the potential to be on the field a little bit more than Nolan Smith because of the depth of the edge rushers and the veteran presence of those guys up there. Jalen Carter, he's replacing Javon Hargrave to an extent. Fletch is getting older. So there's just going to be, I think, more opportunity for him to be on the field. And the fact that our edge rushers are so good and quick off the ball could actually benefit Jalen Carter getting those sacks if those quarterbacks find themselves having to push up in the pocket into a collapsing pocket where Jalen Carter is there waiting, open arms, So I think he'll be able to benefit from not just his own talent, but the talent around him being on the field as much as I think that he is going to be on the field with those quarterbacks just kind of falling into his lap at times.
Yeah, this is a really kind of a tough question. I initially thought Nolan Smith because of how successful Hassan Reddick was at the outside linebacker position. But if he's not going to get that much more playing time, depending on how the defense is set up, or if Jalen Carter, if that works in his favor, more playing time, then Carter would probably have the bigger opportunity to get more sacks, especially depending on the progress of Jordan Davis. It's a second year for him. He missed some games last year with an injury. He's another player that will be dealing with big expectations. So it could be close. I do think that, but ultimately with the pressures, especially if you're going up against bad offensive lines, then I think that works more in Jalen Carter's favor to get his fair share of sacks. So
Gotcha.
I'll go with Carter.
Gotcha. I'm on an island there. This next one, and it's along the same lines, but not a statistical one. We end the season feeling very good about Jordan Davis.
I think that's all on him. And, I'm going to be the optimistic one here, and I say yes. But at the end of the day, can he stay on the field? How does his conditioning look over the course of the season? How is he doing in terms of game action? Is he having to come off the field at certain points and making the likes of Jalen Carter and other guys have to go into it all goes to it. I'm very confident in Jordan Davis's talent because he was a force at Georgia. He showed he could be a force on the Eagles. It's up to him now, and I think he will capitalize on that.
Yeah, for me, it's him developing his pass rush.
I'm gonna be real quick with my answer and say yes as well. And I think that when you're somebody like Jordan Davis, like those guys coming all together from Georgia, I think that there's an added sense of not just camaraderie, but pressure to not be the one who's not doing his part, So I do think that his conditioning will be at least close enough to where it needs to be to make a valuable impact on the season. And I do think that we'll be talking about him as an important piece that did what he was supposed to do this year.
I think you'll have your doubts about Jordan Davis. That's especially if Jalen Carter fulfills his potential. I think everybody will just be all about Jalen Carter, especially if he's in a running for Defensive Rookie of the Year and everything like that. But I mean, with the attention on Carter per se, it kind of allows Davis to go back into the shadows a little bit and kind of just like avoid the limelight, not too much, but it could potentially be a really deep defense with so many pieces to go around, especially so many from Georgia. So I understand your point, John. It makes a lot of sense with being around those guys still from Georgia now within the pros, and then not wanting to be that 1 week link. But given the concerns about his conditioning and everything that happened with him in his first year, I think you'll have some concerns. If that's kind of answers the question.
So you're saying you're not going to feel? I'm saying very good. Not
I don't
good,
think,
not okay.
Yeah, I'm not
no doubts. Very good. Immaculate. You're going to be creaming your Dockers because of Jordan Davis.
Yeah, I could see that happening because there's only so many draft picks that can turn out well. So,
all right, next one. Stay on defense. Hassan Reddick, yet again, is a Defensive Player of the Year snub. I think he's going to have a great season. I think he's going to get snubbed for it. What do we think?
Yeah. I mean, okay. Let me slow down.
There's one word. He's like, all right, my brain's too fast.
You know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, I'm just trying to make sure that I'm not being overly optimistic at the expense of rational thought. You know,
you're thinking about it all wrong. Then
he has had multiple seasons now in a row where, I mean, he's sacking the quarterback like crazy. It's one of the most important, if not the most important aspect in terms of highlighting a defensive player. So do I think that he's going to take a step back? I don't know about that.
Yeah, you and Jeffrey were saying that you guys think that he's going to get 19 sacks, if I recall correctly.
I don't remember that conversation. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. Okay. Like, as I said, I am very optimistic. I do think he's going to have another great year. Do I think it's going to lead to a Defensive Player of the Year snub? I'm going to go undecided on that.
Okay.
I'm going to jump in here. I think Reddick's going to have at least double-digit sacks. I think he's that good of a player. I think that, the Eagles have fully unlocked his potential. I am not going to say that he's the Defensive Player of the Year candidate because it is so hard to replicate that type of production year in and year out. It is insanely difficult. Even the best defenders in the league are, unless you're on like a Hall of Fame trajectory, it's so hard to replicate that type of production year in and year out. Because, with sacks, it's like there's fluctuation to it, The Eagles did have more talent. What if 2 of those sacks go to Nolan Smith and maybe 2 of them go to Jalen Carter now? Well, instead of that, the 19 range, you're in the 13 range or the 14. Like, I think he's going to have a great year, but I can't predict that he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year level again. Because if he is, the Hassan Reddick conversation is a completely different story. Not about, is he a Defensive Player of the Year candidate? No, it becomes, is he one of the best defensive players in the NFL, period? So I don't know if that's the conversation that we're going to be having about Reddick at the end of the year, but I still think he's going to have a great year.
I would agree. I think I looked at his numbers a while ago, and it seemed that his sacks increased with each season. So, I mean, I think around 20s, just insane. Going double digits is very good. So I could see him getting, around 10. It's just hard to predict that. I think it's more likely what you just said, Brandon. Some of the sacks are going to go to Nolan Smith. Some are going to go to the defensive line, and throughout that defensive unit. So I don't think he'll be Defensive Player of the Year snub, but I think he'll be a good defensive. He'll be impactful again for the Eagles defense, which is at the end of the day, that's all you can ask for. So I would expect around probably close to 10 sacks.
Next one. Aaron Sipas is the punter for the entire season.
I think for your sake, I have to say no, because I don't know what you're gonna look like in week 13.
I'll kill myself.
This
This
question
they didn't sign another punter, right?
No, he's on the practice squad. They're going to elevate him twice, and they're going to sign him to the 53-man roster. That's what's going to happen.
Well, hey, they worked out Braden Mann.
If they were going to sign him, they already would have. I don't have any faith. Michael Clay is an idiot. I don't know why he got a raise. We're here. This is reality now. And where he's going to shank a punt in the playoffs, and it's going to come back, and I'm going to sit here crying. I'm going to put the camera right on my mouth as I throw up. That's what's going to happen.
This question has bad juju. Okay.
Yep.
It's just a bad vibe in general, because we're pretty much here now, right? We are pretty much here. So, like, we need to give as much positivity to Aaron Sipas as possible. We need to funnel positive vibes and hope that he can somehow have a spectacular season. Y'all remember in 2017, Nick Foles did not have a good training camp. Nick Foles was on his second stint with the Eagles and other places, didn't play well. But then when we needed him, he performed. I fingers crossed that Aaron Sipas can follow somewhat of a similar trajectory just in terms of a turnaround, but he can't do it with all this negativity. He needs positive vibes.
He gets positive vibes when he earns them.
I'm going to be a realist with this, just from what I've seen from him. If he's the Eagles punter by the back half of the year, the Eagles special teams might have cost them a game or two.
Oh yeah.
That's where I stand on it.
I believe that. That's a good call.
Those aren't positive vibes, Brandon.
Yeah, that could.
No, they're not positive vibes. It's just I'm just surprised that after what they saw from him, they're like, you want to know what the best option is? Keeping this guy.
Yeah, I mean, they couldn't have been that impressed with whoever they brought in, because then otherwise they would have signed them.
It's so frustrating.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the person I forget the guy's name, but when Sipas got hurt last year,
Brett Kern.
Yeah, and he was worse than Sipas. So, yep. I mean, yeah, don't seem to be that easy to find a punter. So.
This is Weston R. Wayne is Jalil's burner. Only positive vibes here.
Best team in the league is right, Weston. That's what I'm talking about.
Goddamn right. All right. I only have one more of these. I'm going to say this, and then I am about ready to explode with piss. So I'm going to say this, and then I'm going to let you guys talk about it. 3 offensive linemen are all pro. I have to go pee.
3.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it because, looking at the depth chart, right, you got Jason Kelsey. I think that could be an all-pro right there. You got Lane Johnson. That's 2. And I think of one of Mailata or Dickerson, if he takes a step forward, could be it. Juergens potentially. But, if everything clicks for them, I don't see why not.
I'm going to say no. I would like to, and I think that we would probably have 3 guys that are deserving, but I don't think that they'll select 3 Eagles from the they don't even like us,
Well, no, it also goes to the point, right? Are we talking just first, second, and third team All Pro, or just first team? Because if we're going all
That's a
three,
good point. That's a good point. If we are talking all three, well then yes, I'm saying yes, and I'm saying definitely. Yes, ain't no way. I was about to curse. Ain't no way that we're gonna get by without three on the All Pro squad if everybody stays healthy. I just don't see that being a thing.
But yeah, to your point, like if we're talking just like first team All Pro, then that's it's very hard for three of one team unless you're having like the best O line of all time to get on that.
Yeah. Well, Mailata, he's got to have a better year. He struggled last year. That was what was it, 2 or a couple of years ago? He seemed like he made a lot of progress, and last year he kind of seemed like he was regressing. You're getting with Kelsey and Lane Johnson, just all pros, and it's a big step for Cam Jurgens. He was drafted as the replacement to Kelsey, and they're moving over the guard. So, I mean, it's for all pros for all three teams. I think that's possible because you probably got the two veterans right there. So that's 2 out of 3 right there. It's a big year for Dickerson or Jurgens. My lot is he's got to have a big year because protecting Hurts' blind side. So, that's important.
I think that what's his name, Trent Williams. Yeah, I think that's a shoo-in for an All-Pro left tackle. So for me, the 3 are Lane, Kelsey, and Dickerson. Those are the 3 that I was thinking of. That is all of my season predictions. We wanted to do the
real
season.
Quick, Jake.
Yep.
Before we move off that, because we've talked about this before, and I always have to feel like I have to defend Jordan Mailata because I think that he played pretty well last year. I think that if you're criticizing, it's one of those things where you're comparing greats amongst greats, and so you have to nitpick sometimes. And if we're going to say that anybody of the guys up front had some things or some times that were less than ideal, I guess we could say yes, it was Mailata. But overall, throughout the season, he was very good on the season. And even Pro Football Focus has him ranked 9th in the league last year amongst all tackles, left and right. So I thought he was good, and I think that he can still continue to get better, obviously. But yeah, I like Mailata a lot, and I think that he's doing a great job.
Yeah, I mean, just when it comes to I think he's doing a great job too. It's just when it comes to the All-Pro, is he one of the best 2 in the league? And there's just more competition there at the left tackle because it's such an important position that there's just the best guys playing that. That's the only thought that I had with it.
I'm with you there.
All right, game by game. Let's see. Game by game. What are we calling this? What the hell do we call it?
The season record prediction.
Season record prediction.
Are we going game by game or just giving the record?
I was going to say we
just giving the record.
Just giving the record.
We're at 1 hour and 10 minutes, gentlemen.
then let me. I have one last question. What week do the Eagles get their first loss?
Week 7 versus the Dolphins.
I say.
I wrote this out. I picked it. I'm saying 14-3, and the 3 losses are going to be to the Dolphins, the Bills, and the Seahawks.
I'm also at 14-3. I think that their first loss comes against either the Dolphins or the Cowboys in week 9, or Dolphins in week 7 or the Cowboys in week 9.
Okay. What about you, Matt?
I'll go. I'll go the Vikings in week 2. I just think it's going to be a tough. Yeah, it's a tough week coming off that short week.
Short week for them too.
So yeah, it's also a short week for Minnesota. Someone's got to win. Someone's got to lose.
Kirk Cousins in prime time.
What's that?
Kirk Cousins in prime time.
That's true. Yeah.
He doesn't have Alexander Madison. Absolutely terrible defense. I don't know.
We've been smacking the Vikings for years now. I cannot see us losing to them.
We'll see. But yeah, I'll stick with my prediction.
I too went with Miami. I think that's a game. I think there's going to be 1 trillion points scored in that game. That's coming off after the Jets game, where I think that's going to be a really physical game, like I said. And I think that might be a game after a physical game like that. That might be a game where having 2 30-year-old cornerbacks ends up kind of showing when they have to keep up with Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
It's a track meet with them boys. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
like in all honesty, I think week 6, 7, or 9, or you could see a loss either of those weeks. That could be the first loss.
But we're not thinking. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean, whether it's the Jets, Dolphins, or Cowboys, like I feel like they're 3 of the better teams in the league. Obviously,
the Cowboys game in week 9 is that which one is that in Philly or is that
in Philly? That's a home game.
Oh no, I can't see that, Brandon. I can't see that at all.
Well,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
glasses off.
I think Dallas will be a tough matchup, but I think the loss probably comes before that. I mean, look, after that Dallas game, it's Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas. Like that's like if the loss isn't coming before week 9, I think you're having a chance if it's coming after.
Matt, what did you end up having their record at?
I'm toying with around, I guess, 17 games now. I'll go 11-6.
11-6. I'm going to split the middle between you guys. I went 12-5. My losses are Miami. They only have 1 loss before the bye week. Then I have Buffalo, which unfortunately I have both of their losses being the Kelly Green games, which sucks. And then I have Dallas in week 13 at Dallas. I think they're going to split with Dallas. I think they're actually going to lose 2 games in a row, losing at Dallas and then at Seattle. I think that's one of those weird things where they might fly back to Philly and then fly back across the country. Really kind of depends on what their travel situation is there. And then I also have them losing in week 17 to the Jets or to the Giants.
What?
Week 18. Giants. Sorry, week 18. Week 18 to the Giants.
The Giants. The week wasn't the problem. The Giants.
Yeah, it's going to be the last game. I think they're going to be able to have the NFC locked up by them.
Come on. You think we're going to have at that point, it will be 11 wins. You think the NFC is going to be locked up?
No, we'll have 12 wins by that point.
You said 12-5.
Yeah, 12-5.
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh,
that will be their 5th loss.
So 12 wins the conference this year?
I believe so. I think a lot of these NFC divisions are going to eat themselves alive, and I think that the Eagles are going to come out on top of that.
That's very interesting.
Listen,
one of my best friends is a Giants fan. That can't happen. Okay, we've been beating them, shellacking them for forever. Okay, and it's always golden when it happens. In my house, we always record Eagles games and we watch them randomly. We have cookouts and all that. We watch Eagles games, and he lives here, so he has to deal with Eagles on the TV all the time. Coming into this season, he said, if the Giants beat y'all one time this year, I want y'all to put that game in rotation on these hangout days. So that can't happen.
Here's the thing. It's gonna be week 18. We saw what Marcus Mariota does. We saw that. We saw what this backup, what the entire second team looks like for the past month and a half. Marcus Mariota's awful. if he's leading the charge, buddy.
Look.
Oh,
No, the answer is no to the Giants. It just can't happen. I can't be subject to watching a Giants game where I know they beat the Eagles like on July 4th next year. You know what I'm saying, during the cookout. Like I can't. We can't do that.
The crazy thing is, it could happen. Like I think the Giants are a team that people should be looking out for. I don't think that's going to be an easy game by any means.
I agree. I just think the world will still win. Like when they hired, Daboll, I was bullish on it. And I tell my people like, hey, the Giants are going to start making a comeback now because Daboll's serious. But Gino Paul said could be week 1. I remember you had put that up a little while ago, and I just wanted to say, hell no, Gino. Hell no. The Patriots.
It better not be.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Let's get into that. And actually, one thing, it's a win-win situation for you though, Jalil. If the Eagles lose with backups, you have to watch and just be like, yeah, this is Marcus Mariota. I knew that he was going to suck when you're at your cookout. Or if Marcus Mariota wins that game, you're going to be like, I can't believe you idiots lost to this clown. So
yeah, if we win that game with Mariota, then it's definitely going in the rotation.
Why wouldn't Tanner McKee be in consideration for the number 2 spot?
He should be.
He should be, but he also isn't getting paid $5 million.
That's what I don't understand because Mariota is a good runner, but he's not much passing the ball. So
Mariota owns this flash drive. Okay, it has very sensitive information.
All right. Okay.
It'll be leaked to the press.
So, like we said, let's do this week 1 thing. I honestly, to me, there ain't a whole lot going into this. The Patriots defense is good. Their offense stinks. Is their defense good enough? Like, are they good enough to matter?
They don't have the personnel. They got Bill O'Brien back in as an offensive coordinator, and that will help things. But their personnel on offense just should not be enough to muster enough points. Now, their defense last year had 19 interceptions, 41 sacks. I believe they also scored 7 touchdowns on the defensive side of the ball. So you have to be careful. They like to disguise things pre-snap, so Jalen's got to be careful with all that stuff. But at the end of the day, that roster should not beat the Eagles. I'm not concerned about that at all.
How many of those touchdowns that the defense scored were Zach Wilson throwing balls, or that other guy, or the other guy,
Mike White,
and then there's the fellow with the arm tattoo.
Nick Wright. No, I'm just playing. Hey, what was it?
Straveler.
Yeah, that was electric.
I don't know if he played against him.
No, when he came in, whatever game that was, like he started doing well, and it was like they kept showing Zach Wilson's face on the sideline. It's like that guy wants to die, right? If somebody shot him, he would welcome death.
I remember this because it was the Jacksonville game, and I was in attendance, and there was cheering for probably the worst pass I've ever seen thrown in an NFL game.
So
that's where it was at. But to the point with this Eagles-Patriots game, I feel like it's straightforward, as you guys said, in the sense of, look, can the Patriots defense maybe slow down the Eagles offense a little bit? Yes. But there's no reason or no way, I'd rather say no way, that the Patriots offense should do anything meaningful against the Eagles defense. If that happens, there are some questions that need to be raised immediately. And I get it. Week 1, there's a lot of overreactions. There's a lot of things where you're just like, oh, this is going to happen. Then the complete opposite happens. Mac Jones should not and cannot torch this defense. That would be a very bad sign heading into this season because, look, at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about Mac Jones, this Patriots offense is not talented. It's not good. There's not enough there to overcome a defense like the Eagles.
Exactly.
AJ Brown.
Sorry, Tom Brady. You should have asked him to reschedule Tom Brady Day.
That was such a dumb move by them. I don't know what their schedule looks like, but to have the Tom Brady Day be on against the team that beat him in the Super Bowl.
Right.
No, but he also beat them. So
Well, that was 20 years ago.
well,
I mean, yeah, it's fair, but Tom Brady's most prolific performance in a Super Bowl in his Super Bowl history, he got beat by Nick Foles, 41-33 on what was that? February 8th.
Nick Foles to show up to the game? Can we get Nick Foles to show up to the game?
February 4th.
See if Tom Brady will shake his hand.
yeah, that's yeah. The Eagles are the clear favorite in this game.
4 points.
The only way that they would lose if they let the Patriots stick around somehow. They're not executing in the red zone. They're just playing sloppy football, which we've seen happen with other teams. Not specifically with the Eagles, I'm saying, but with any team, especially in the first week, where, oh yeah, they're this favorite, they should, just beat this team, and then they get upset. So, it would be disappointing if the Eagles don't come away with a win, especially when you're coming off, especially when you have to play 4 days later. So, which is a good thing and a bad thing, because you have to immediately move right into the next game, win or lose this game on Sunday. But I would think the Eagles win.
To
probably
me,
something like 20-13 or something. Not everybody might not play well in this game, which isn't alarming because it's one game and it's first game of the season. It's going to take time for everything to gel again. But yeah, if it's a loss, they got the pressure on them coming back that Thursday. A play at the link, they would need to beat the Vikings then.
I kind of disagree with that it might take time to gel. Nick Sirianni's first two game ones, what was it? 32 points and then 32 points and then 38 points.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually just wrote something about this with some stats going into this game. Very, very weird. Totally doesn't pertain to this. In the week one of last year, the Eagles beat the Lions 38-35, and in the Super Bowl they lost 38-35. Kind of weird.
Yeah, that's something that I noticed too, and I've talked about that a couple of times with different people. It's just a weird full circle type of moment.
Yep.
That I hate.
Yep, very odd.
Should we have lost that for opening game to the Lions to ensure the victory?
People are talking. People are saying it. Not me. Again, it's just that other guy on Twitter, Bake Jeckman. The one thing that I think this game is very important, because this is going to tell us a lot about this Eagles team. To be able to beat that Super Bowl hangover, that is going to be the most important thing for me in this. The other two, like I said, the other two Sirianni years, they're coming out and putting up a trillion points on the board. This Super Bowl hangover thing, I think that this team's built a little bit different than some of those than other Super Bowl losing teams with the hangover. But this is going to be very curious to me. I think this could be a big tone setter for this first the stretch of games before that gauntlet after the bye week. They need to stack wins, because after that, buddy.
Everything we've seen and we know about Jalen Hurts so far lends itself to the belief that he's going to be ready to go and he's moving on past last season. The thing is the other guys, right? So are they going to follow his lead in that regard? And I feel like he's that type of guy that you're like, you kind of don't want to let him down, right? Yeah. Because he is that guy.
There's 11 other guys on the other side of the ball that need to be able to do something when they're not on the field with Jalen.
No, but they feel that presence as well, right? They all feel the presence of Jalen Hurts. It's his team. And yeah, I think the OC and DC will do just fine. I'm not worried about them at all. I actually think that stuff is a little overblown.
Do you?
Yes.
My whole thing with it, I'm confident that I'm confident the defensive coordinator. I think that defensively, the Jonathan Gannon talk has been very few and far between, but when it has been brought up, look, there's a lot of things Gannon could have done a little bit better, and I think a new scheme isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I also don't think they're going to change too much of what works, but add a few more wrinkles that maybe gives them a bit more success. I'm just very interested to see the impact Shane Steichen had on the offense.
Yep.
Because if there is the chance they start slow because they have to get their feet underneath them with a new system, how much did Steichen actually help Hurts? How much did his play calling do X or Y? Or is it like that's where I'm going to be like, not like fully invested, but interested. Okay, how does week 1 look? How do they make the adjustments in week 2? And then so on and so forth. Because, play calling offensive coordinators, they're very important to success in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't necessarily worry about like the because it's still Nick Sirianni's offense. It's just a new play caller, and Shane Steichen is an elite play caller. Yeah, I have all the faith in Brian Johnson. Well, I have all the hope in Brian Johnson, but he's got some big shoes to fill. He's got some real big shoes to fill.
But remember too, it's not like we brought in OC from another place, and he's going to
It was internal. It was an internal hire.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's familiar with the offense already. He's familiar with the calls. He has a relationship with Jalen Hurts already. They're really close, from all the reports that we heard. So I think that's going to make that transition that much easier.
To me, the telltale sign is going to be the amount of offensive penalties, the delays of games. We saw that in one of the preseason games where there was a big one. They've been saying that they ironed it out, but there was some communication issues during practices and stuff like that. It's going to be I think that's going to be kind of the telltale sign of where we're at early in the season with that offensive coordinator, with how Brian Johnson's doing. But yeah, I agree. Defensive coordinator, I think Sean Desai. I think it's going to be fun. I think he's going to run a fun defense. That's my fun take on it. It'll be fun. All right. That is it. Does anybody have anything else?
Football is here. Let's go.
Football is here.
Exactly. I'm gonna go make a drink is what I'm gonna do and eat some food.
I got a fridge full of Natty Lights that I'm about to delete. We're gonna do that tonight. And then we're gonna
no, not tomorrow. The Natty Lights.
Get over it, baby.
Blue moon all the way. Come on now.
31 years old, and I understand a deal. When I see a $15 30-pack, I'm gonna take it.
Oh man. That's why you're exploding with piss. It carries over to even days when you're not drinking. It just sits in your system for way too long.
I guess mind your own business. Is what I have to say. Okay.
Good stuff, gentlemen.
Well, we did it. All right, guys, we talked for an hour and a half. We talked season predictions. We talked the week 1 preview. Thank you guys very much for sticking around and watching this. If you want to see me drink my own piss, we actually did get one of our videos up to 500 views. Again, we need 3 500 view videos in a row, and I will drink 8 fluid ounces of my own piss. Not hot, but room temperature or cold. I will do that. So make sure you go over to YouTube, subscribe, watch it there as well. One thing there's somebody in my household does, she puts it on and then it makes it so she's not away on Microsoft Teams. So do that. And that's how we can get some of those views. There's a good chance my wife wants me to drink piss, which is a conversation that needs to be kind of chilled out in the Beckman household, but we'll get there when we get there.
Sounds like she's supporting your dreams to me.
My dream is not to drink piss. I want to be very clear.
Hey, you offered.
Well, yeah. And yeah, that's all I can say about that. Anyway, thank you guys very much for joining us on Inside the Iggles Live. For Matt, for Jalil, Damn it, I almost got it. For Brandon, for Jake, thank you guys very much for hanging out with us. Go Birds.
Go Birds, baby.